Welcome. Let me see if I can find myself. Just wait a moment for a few moments. Welcome. I have a cup of tea. Do you have a cup of tea, coffee, something to drink? Hello, Hanneke. Hello, Hanneke. Nicole, hi. Remke. Nice to see you all. The sound is good, thanks. For the people who don't know me, I'm Julia Woning and I have written the PanPastel Workshop book. And today I'm going live on YouTube for the first time. So bear me if something goes wrong, but let's try to work with PanPastel on PastelMat paper and some Derwent pastels, the ice cream. So I will flip my camera so you can see my table and we can start. This is always tricky, but let's see if this is going okay. Yeah, I'm here. There is some delay, so I have to be quite right here in the camera. Let me see if everything is there where I want it to be. Something, yeah. Okay, let's start. PanPastel. This is what we're gonna do today. But before we go start with this, you can find a line drawing and a photograph. And of course I can't find a photograph like this one. On my Facebook, but also here on YouTube in my community. You can download them and you can use them as a reference. But let's get a quick start about PanPastel, short version, because there are a lot of videos on my YouTube where you can find more information about the PanPastel, and I just wanted to show you what you can do with PanPastel. This is ordinary paper, drawing paper. This is the PanPastel in a pen. So it's a new invention of the classical pastel sticks. It's a new recipe, and they created a pen where the PanPastel is in. There are 92 different colors, and here is my tray, the basic set by Julia Woning. It's the only tray and the only collection where there is a colorless blender. Colorless blender, not a binder, a blender. And we have white, black, and gray for the gray, white and black projects, and the basic color, including the Sienna tint. And the Sienna tint is a mixture of sienna and white. And let me show you the basics, if I can find it here. If you want to know all those 92 colors, how they are managed, is that there is a pure color. That's the series with the number 0.5. Then you have a mixture of the pure color with the white, and that's a mixture with the pure color with white, and that's the 0.A version. It's always tricky if it's a 3 or an 8, but this is the 8. And then you have a pure color with just a little bit of black. That's the 0.3. And the pure color with a lot of black, and that's the 0.1. So there are 20 pure colors, 20 tint colors, 20 shade colors, and 20 dark colors. And they're all varieties of collections or combinations you can choose from, and you can buy them separately. After the colors, there are also metallics, and there are some pearl essence. But the most important thing, I think, from PanPastel is, in comparison with the classical pastels, they rarely produced any dust, or it's not necessary to produce dust, because many artists will rub it in quite quickly and create dust, and that's not necessary. You have to use just a little wipe and you can place it on here. And you see what I'm using? I'm using a palette knife with a cover, and that's the combination with the PanPastels, and you have several covers and several tools where you can work with your PanPastels. And of course, there are also, let me show you, some sponges where in different sizes where you can work with your PanPastels. The beautiful thing is that you can mix your colors very easily. So I have black now, but if I'm just using a little bit of blue, I can create a very nice blue-black. And if I want to clean up my sponge, I can use just a little bit of tissue paper, rub it off, take my blue, and I can place my blue color on the ordinary drawing paper. The most important thing is that you use a very light hand. Let me close the lid here. Be careful when you close the lid. It has to be very easily, otherwise you will break it down. The tray is very nice to put your 10 or 20 colors in, and there is a big lid. And the covers, you can wash them by hand, let them air dry, and then you can reuse them. If you have a lot, you can put it in your washing machine, but be aware, not with white clothes and on synthetic wash short, 30 degrees. I'm not sure what's in American, but it's 30 degrees European. So, like this. The nice thing is, and that's also different comparing to the classical pastels, it's very good erasable. Not only with a normal eraser, but also with a electric eraser. If you want to place a different color, for example, the yellow, you can place it next to each other, next to the blue color, because if I go on top of the blue, it will mix with the underlayer. And that's different with the classical pastels. You will have to get rid of the excess of the eraser. If you erase, then you can place the bright color. So be aware of that. You have to block your different colors in your drawing to get the bright color. Otherwise, they will always mix with the underlayer. Okay, short, but there are more videos on my YouTube where I go dive in more in this sort of questions. Before we go any further, PastelMat. PastelMat is a sanded-like paper, and with the sanded-like paper, you can work with your PanPastels very easily. See the difference in layering down those colors? But the most important thing is, don't apply your PanPastel larger than this. So the length and the width of a cover. Because if I place them like this, and I will use different kinds of colors, like this, and then use a blender, it's very easily to blend those colors. If I want to lay down immediately, like this, you can see it's much harder. I have to put more pressure on my covers, and my covers will deteriorate because it's a sanded-like paper. So be aware of that. What you can do, and that's important with the project we will do in a minute, is that you put down a layer first. So the blender, even though my sponge is dirty, I can use it for this color. I lay down a little bit of a blender. Then I will use a color that I choose. In this, I use a blue, and it's much easier to make a lay down in this color. And I even with white can blend it up. And why is it easy? Because there is already an underlayer on the PastelMat. And that's why I work with underlayers before I apply the direct color. So let me see if there are already any questions. Hello, everybody. Nice to see you. Okay, let's dive in. If you have the line drawing and you want to place it on your PastelMat paper, you can do several things. If you're handy with drawing, you can draw it directly on your PastelMat paper. Otherwise, you apply some PanPastel on the back of, let me see, where I misplaced something. Oh, here it is. Some yellow, some red. Put it on the back of your line drawing like this. And you can use, if you cover it all, you can use it as a, like this. Use a ballpoint and you can transfer your drawing on your PastelMat paper. If you have the drawing already on your paper, and what I can see, I will turn around my colors because I'm using these for today. Maybe I will use this. Okay, you see I have a line drawing, but it's very light. So before I started, I will use a little bit of orange, and that will be the P100, the spectrum orange. And I just draw a little bit the outer lines very lightly, just to be sure that the lines are there, like this. Okay, inner line in here. Normally I would do everything, but for now I just do the main lines, very light-handed, and place it down like this. Okay, now I'll take my example so you can see what I will do. I'm not sure if I use this side or this side, maybe this side, because the colors are much more vivid here on this side, but then you have a problem with the lights. Maybe I could use it like this. Like this. So this is much better. So let's get starting with the ice cream. I will use a oval size. I like that. And I will start from top till bottom, and I will create a red. And of course I could use only the red, but I will have a mixture of those two. But beforehand, I want to be sure that this will be white and this will be a lighter tone. So let me take some blender, just a little bit, and I place it down in here. And if you think it's difficult to see what you're doing, just put a little bit of red next to the blender and you can already see what you're doing. And what I immediately see is that my drawing is gonna move, and I don't like that. So I will place some tape on the paper. And it's always when you're going live, something happens. But let me put some tape on here. Normally I tape it all around, but I forgot. So like this. And something like here at the bottom. So I'm sure that it won't go away anywhere. And again, some blender. Don't put too much blender, but just a little bit. And that's practice. You have to be aware that you put down an underlayer before you get the real color. And in this time, I could use a blender. You could also use a color. It's just what you prefer. Just to put it down a little bit like this, the underlayer. I will leave out the spot that I want to get lightened. Normally when you use a classical pastel, you would do it all red and then later on you apply the white. But here you have to be sure that you are combining but separately. So you have to place those different colors next to each other. So this is the first layer in the top. Now I go to the red and a little bit of magenta. So I have a mixture of those two red colors and I place it down. And what you immediately see, but also if you join me, feel, is that it's much easier to put down that layer of red because there is already an underlayer, and because there is an underlayer, you can do it quite easily. So again, and you see, it's just like a little touch of the color on your cover and place it on the paper in the point. I'm holding it as a pencil and very lightly I go around the tip of the ice cream like this. Maybe a little bit smaller here. And rather doing a dark color, I build it up bit by bit. Just like this. And be aware, if you feel that you need to do more pressure because there is not enough pigment, get some pigment. Don't rub your sponge or cover in the paper because that will deteriorate your sponge. So again, like this. Okay, that's the first layer. Before I go any darker, because I want to have a darker color here, I will place the whole red underneath it. I see a question. Yeah, there are different tools where you can make marks, but I like to prefer and learn yourself to do those marks with those several forms of tools. If you put it on top, you can make small marks, and if you flatten it, you get broader marks. So learn yourself to do more with a tool. Again, a little bit of blender here and around the white, so I'm not covering the white. And because there's already red in my tool, you can see more what I'm doing with the blender. Just put those first layers down. Again, some blender in here. Maybe already some red with me. And again, not larger than your tool. So don't cover it all. Rather small areas to cover the first layer. If you don't have magenta, then use only the red. You will see the magenta will help you get more depth in your red. And if you use only red, you could use a little bit of yellow or maybe a little bit of blue, but be aware because red and blue will purple and you want to have no purple but more a reddish color. So that's why I use the magenta. But if you have no magenta, Don't worry, just use the red instead. Again, lay down the first layer. And it looks funny now, but it's the first layer. It's like painting. So this is an underlayer of PanPastel on the PastelMat paper, like this. Okay, now I go back to the red and the magenta and combine it and place it like here. This is the darker spot and apply it here. And it's much easier to lay down those colors. And do it carefully. Don't rub it in. Step by step. Always looking at your reference photo. That's why I'm always working left to right and check it where those light shimmers are in the ice cream. Like here. Go on top of here. Again with the point. You see that I switch with how I hold my tools. Again with the point like this. If you don't like this, but you prefer something else like this, I will show you. There are different kind of tools that you could use to create lines with for the PanPastels, but as I already mentioned, try to learn yourself to do it with the point of your soft tools. And the underlayer is with the blender and some little bit of color that was already on my sponge. And like this, place it on here. And this is the first laydowns and basically the first color that I see for my red ice cream. Building it up like this. Leave a little bit of white open because then I know where there is a shimmer later on and where I can place down a lighter color. Because we have color blocking like what I already mentioned. So something like this, yeah. Again on this side. Oh, there was too much magenta, you see? No problem, you can rub it all out, and that's easy because there is an underlayer. If you didn't put any underlayer, then you have a mark, and then it's very difficult to remove it. Because it's a dark color or a full color of red, we could erase it and put several layers on top of it, but you can imagine if that was a skin tone or on a cheek, then you have a mark, and that's very difficult to get rid of. So that's why I work with underlayers on the PastelMat paper, because PastelMat paper with PanPastel is for me the best combination, because it's very forgiving paper, because you can erase, you can lay down several layers. So that's why I work with PanPastel. The Colourless blender is a colorless PanPastel, but because you don't think you use too much, you use too much blender. So that's why it's sometimes difficult if you lay down your PanPastels and your colors like we do now. If you want to do more detail, let's say fur with your pastel pencils, it could be sometimes difficult to lay down your your pastel pencils on top of your PanPastel underlayer, because you have using too much PanPastel in combination with your blender. And that's practice. You have to learn how much PanPastel you can lay down on this paper, but if you get the hang of it, it will be very easy and very nice to work with. But everything has to have a certain experience. So this is the first layer, and before I go to the other layer, I will create the darker tones. And the darker tones you can create like how I explain here in the book, that the color is pure color with a little bit of black and a pure color with lots of black. If I use a red with just a little black, I will create a darker color. So I can use a red and a magenta and just a tip of black. You see, you use very less pastels for your drawing. I can place it in here, I can place it in here, and then I can rub it in. And I use a little bit of red and purple or magenta, and I build that dark color in here. You see, you have to use a very, very light black. If you think that's difficult to mix those colors like this, you can use a different technique, and I will show you. You can use a in-between thing. What you can do, take a normal drawing paper, lay it down, red, magenta, and just a little bit of black, and create the color here that you prefer on your drawing, and use this. The other thing you could do is use a sponge and mix it up on the sponge, and you can use it from the sponge. The nice thing of working with the sponge is that it's always giving the color away to your cover. This one, the paper will fixate or hold down the color. So it's just what you prefer, but both ways are good to get acquainted with color mixing. So like this, you get a darker color. And again, on top of it, I go with the red, maybe the magenta. And now I'm already full on this paper with this. So I could do this for this project, but if this would be a color underneath a furry, hairy coat of a dog or something, then it would be too much and there would not be able to go over it with your pastel pencils. So be aware of that you have to be careful with the thickness of your layers. Okay, some color on top of here. It's darker, it's brighter. Again, like this. And I will go to the darker color underneath, just a little bit of black, and place it down. Be aware that you don't get a brownish color, but a darker deep red without getting any purple. And we don't get purple because there is no blue. I'm not using any blue. I'm just using the black to get the darker red, like this. Welcome, Anna. You can find the workshop. You can also later on go back to the beginning. I will leave the live here on my YouTube so you can practice, practice, practice. Again, a darker color like this. Something like that. Again, on the other side. And I see a darker line in here. So where I leave white, I will place some darker color. Maybe some mixture of my paper. And how more difference between those tones of red you can create, how beautiful it will be. How more depth you will get in your drawing, painting. Because what we're doing now is so much different than ordinary classical pastel sticks. Because we're almost like painting with dry pigments. And that's why I prefer and like my pan pastels so much, because if, for example, I'm at home and I have no time anymore, I could leave this, I could put the tray on, and I go to the other things that I have to do or whatever. If I do this with paint, I have a lot of mess, and it's very difficult to go away with all those products. And now it's very easy access, and yeah, I love the softness of it. If you see the original or the one that I already finished, you can see it's yeah, it's very nice. I love it. So okay, this for now is it. This is it. I will change my tool. So if you don't have a different tool, turn around your tool and use the back of your tool. I will switch to the round one, and I go and create the light in the drawing, and therefore I use just a little bit of white. Something like this, maybe a little bit of blender, but normally I will use only the white. And I go from up to down, so from top till bottom, and I will place some white. And because I haven't had any white on the, or any PanPastel underneath, it's very easy to apply the white spots. And of course they will mix with the red around. But before I go any further in the red, I will place down the white here and there, like this, this and this. Now I'm having all the white that I'm guessing I will be on the right spot. And now I'm going into the drawing. And now I will mix the white that's already on my tool and place it there where I want to see, or when I see the shimmer of the light, something like here. But what you also see is that the white is very light on the red, and it will mixture in a color that's not always what I want to. Just a tap to have a different structure, like here, like tabbing the white on the red, maybe in here. It's all too clean. What you can do is take paper. Where's my tissue paper? Oh, here. Rub it off. And now mix those colors. Like here, it was too straight. And here too much. And work around it. Try to create those structures. And what I will do, just a little bit of red and just a little bit of yellow, but it doesn't have to be orange. It just have to be a little bit lighter. Even with the magenta and a little bit of yellow, it will create a lighter color. And if with white, you can see it will give it a different tone value. And that's what I want to place on here. Some here and there. Switch to the other one, because otherwise the other one is going to be red, and place some red again on top of it. And just create that vibrant color that you see in your picture. Again with the magenta, with the red, something like this. And try to captivate the shimmer and the shine of the ice cream. In Holland it calls raket, but I'm not sure what kind of ice cream this will be in England or in America. It must have a different name. So if you know it, please leave a comment down below so I know how the raket is called in other countries. It's one of my favorite ice creams. Something like this. And again, this one is too white. I will use a little bit of red and go over it. This is also, but I like this one. And what I'm doing now is squeezing my eyes and looking through my eyelashes and see where there will be lighter and darker color. And I'm guessing I'm using a little bit more black in here and here, and a bit here and a bit here. Rub it off, and again, just place it in here. Be careful, don't use too much black. It's very easy to put too much than too less, and I'm guessing I'm almost too much. But if you get more contrast, more dark and light, the colors will be vibrant. So you have to be aware of that. Now a little bit of red again on top of it, like here and here, something like this. Okay. We will go to the orange colors. I leave this for what it is now. And I will change my tool. Yeah, I will change it. I will turn it around, flip it over, and use the orange color. Something like that. What you can see here is a light color, and I will use the skin tone. So I place the skin tone against the red, but in a very thin line with almost no pressure. And then I will use the blender. This one will also like separate the red from the yellow. And of course I could have used the yellow that's already in the 92 colors. It's a warm yellow, but then I had to use more colors, and I wanted to create a project with less PanPastel as possible. So that's why I use the yellow, red, magenta, white blender and the black, and the Sienna tint. Otherwise I had to have another yellow. If you have that bright, nice, warm yellow available to you, you can use it. But here I will show you how you can create that vibrant, warm yellow with just yellow and red. But first what we will do is lay down a thin layer of the blender on my paper for an underlayer, like this. It's not possible to put a picture in the comments on my page or on my channel. But if you have Facebook, you can put it on my group, Art Friends by Julia Woning, or on other social medias, but then tag me please with Julia Woning, hashtag Julia Woning. Then I can find it or I will see it, and I love to see your projects of the ice cream. So the first layer is down, and again with the paper I will create the vibrant orange. What I will do, I will use the yellow like this and a little bit of red. There you have the very nice vibrant color orange. And that's what I will place in here, and I will leave some. What also you could do is some red in your yellow, and of course your yellow will get dirty, but at the end of it we will clean it up. But for now you can mix it also like this, and you can place down on the darker color like this, there where the darker color is, and I put it in a vertical line. Again here, everywhere I see that color tone, I will lay down this color, much more in here, and that's why I can clean my tool now and take some extra yellow and just rub it in there where I want that color. Of course, you can use some extra blender if you prefer that, and you can lay down that color like this, maybe a little bit more red. You see, I will tip it everywhere and then I will rub it in. Only because there is already an underlayer. Otherwise you can see the dots, but if there's an underlayer, you can easily blend it out like this. Rub all those colors that you have on your soft tool and rub it in the paper like this. Again, some red, some yellow, and with a very light hand. There is no hard pushing color on the paper. Be very gentle for your tool and very gentle for your paper. Something like this. Again, leave some spots open because there will be white. In here, some Sienna tint. That will help you to get a mixture between yellow and orange. And you see, tick, tick, tick. You have to use very less of your colors. In here, more yellow. Go around on the other side. And now again, with the tip, create the outline of the ice cream. And if you find it difficult to do it like this, there is he's gone. There was a little fly, and I don't like flies in my camera. Like this, put it around it. Mix it up with the upper layer like this. Mix it all from. Be aware that you don't take down the red in your orange. That's why there was a line of the Sienna tint there. Again on the other side. I'm not always using the black. Sometimes I'm using, I prefer to use the very dark purple color or very dark brown. But in this sense, the red is very darkened nicely with the black. So it depends on what color you want to darken. That was a question of Hanneke. So like this. Again. Around like this. Building it up. These are the warm colors of the orange. Maybe some more red. Now I'm looking through my eyelashes and see where it has to be much darker. And I will lay down that darker tone. Like this. This. Again, some yellow on top of it. And you can see I will switch from the point to the flat side of my sponge. And I will lay down those colors. Again, maybe a little bit too dark here. If you have a dark spot and you want to lighten it, you can use a, let me get this. A kneadable eraser, and a kneadable eraser you can use for getting rid of the darker color, for example in here, and it's much easier than do it with a normal eraser. So this is a very nice piece you could have or use. Again, a little bit of blender because you have get rid of the underlayer, and again you can lighten up like this. Okay, Rub it off. Good. On your paper. And use the white. I will use a white. And there where I can see, I will lay down some effects of shimmer. I think this one is too straight white, so I use a little bit of this orange and go on top of this. It was too much. Now light, and I will place it down. You can see if I would do first the white and then the yellow, I would rub down the white away. So you have to be aware of the layers you place down or lay down on your drawing. Again, here a lot of white, and here some white, some dots. Of course, we're going to giving more details with the pastel pencils later on, but for now, some Sienna tint. Again, maybe some purple or magenta, I'm not sure. Yeah, maybe the magenta. Combination of the magenta and the skin tone, the Sienna tint, to give the lines more depth. It was too small, or maybe some white in here, just to create a very nice. What I see is that there is now a very red line and a yellow line. So I will get my red tool, get off the excess of color, and I will smudge the red with the Sienna tint together. So what you can do is like this, very small, round movement to get more of a soft, less hardened line of the red to the orange. And be aware of the form. So it has to be more round in here. More down here, and maybe some red also, just to get the softness of that line. Something like this. Okay. 2 colors. Third one to go. Rocket Ice Lolly Retro. Thank you very much, Nettie. I was curious how it called in America. It's a much nicer name, Rocket Ice Lolly, Raket, but the retro one. Okay, yeah, Raket is the rocket. Okay, I understand. Clean your yellow one, because now we're going to have a lighter yellowish color. So you clean it up and you can use it for the yellow, and put a little bit of white now again to your yellow. And try to, I guess, a little bit of red also, because otherwise it's too light. Again, you know what I forgot. Do you know what I forgot? I forgot my first layer. Oftewel, I forgot my blender. No hurry. I hope I don't get any spots here, but we will try. I have some yellow. I'm using a blender. I'm so talking about the Rocket Ice Lolly that I forgot to lay down the blender layer. But you can lay down that first layer too with some color, no problem. Because I was light-handed, so otherwise it's difficult to get rid of those marks. But you can see the mark is gone, so. Okay, again, a little bit of blender, put it all down. Watch out there where you need the white to leave it open. Something like this. Again down here. Okay, first layer, a little bit of red on my yellow, some white on my yellow, and now I can lay down, oh, much more yellow, I see. Much more white. I want to have a lighter color than on top. So here, this is the color that I want. There it is. Okay. If you want to mix some red in your yellow, be aware that you use very less red, because otherwise you're almost similar to the color like this, and I want to have more yellowish color on the bottom because there are 3 colors, yellow, orange and red, but the yellow underneath is a little bit more orange than a normal yellow. So be aware of that. White with the yellow, and then mix it against the line so there is no white line in between the orange and the yellowish eyes. Only there where there is a shimmer. Like, there is red. Where there's the red? Blah. You can see sometimes it happened to me too. A kneadable rum. Very easily. Let me clean up the red from my tool. Yeah, some red in here. Again, a blender. Okay, yellow, white, and again, place that color in here. I wasn't friendly of rubbing my tool clean on my paper, so you can see it is crumbling a little bit. And that happens sometimes. I'm always saying when you created a project like this, it always costs you 1 sponge on one side. The other side you can reuse. And of course you can use this one also every time for the yellowish or orange colors that you will be using, not for the blue. And this one you could always use for the red one until it's broken or deteriorated. So you can also reuse your soft sponges. No problem. Lay down these colors. Like this. Maybe a little bit more warmth. Very light reddish color like this. Place it everywhere so it's easier to rub it in the paper. If you try it directly on one spot, you will have too much pigment on that spot, and then it's very difficult to get the same color everywhere. So that's a tip from me to you. Again, rub it against the orange, and now I'm rubbing it with the point like this. Again, underneath here. Leave the white marks open. And if you don't use this on PastelMat paper, but ordinary pastel paper or even drawing paper, you will need less layering down. So you will be quicker with your lay down of your colors. So that's a huge difference between working with the PanPastel on PastelMat paper or other pastel paper. Like this, vertical lines. Maybe again a little bit more red, but then in here, and see between your eyes, through your lashes where there is more depth in your coloring to get, because if you place those dark lines correctly, sorry, you get more depth in your ice cream. Something like this. Okay. And now again, we go to the white. Yeah. And the sun is shining here even on 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock at night. So it's almost ice cream time. Yeah. The ice cream parlor is open again since Easter. So I could go for an ice cream later on. Okay, we have white. And there where you can see the shimmer, you place the white. So where the spots is open, where I left it open, I will place the first light of the white. And then I will look for the lines where I can place the white. Like here, and I go down there, a little bit here, and maybe some here on this side. Again, some tapping with the white to get a different kind of structure in your drawing. Something like this. Oh, here. Again, in a sort of line, like here. Yeah. Okay. Almost ready for the pastel pencils, but before we do that, we will go down there to the wood of the ice cream, of the lollipop. Take some Sienna tint and place it with some blender. There is some yellowish in my tool because I'm using the yellow tool, but be aware of that it doesn't have to be yellowish. Maybe some white with it, like this. And go down. And you see what I do. Sienna tint, white, blender. All on top of each other and then lay it down. And if you get more experience with your pen pastel, it's like tick, tick, tick. And that's practice. Okay. Get that color down. And now I want to have a darker color of the Sienna tint, but I don't have Sienna tint here with me. So I will create a Sienna tint. And how do we create a Sienna tint? I will use a yellow, a little bit of red, and a little bit of black. And maybe some magenta to create a darker tone. And that darker tone in the tip of my tool will create a shade tone of the Sienna tint. And if I rub this off, I have still a little bit in my tool, and that's a in-between color, and I place it like here, something like this. So you have different kinds of tones, values. Again, rub it off and mix it a little bit with the pastels that's already here on my, okay, I'm guessing I'm quite finished with my pastels, pen pastels, and I will go over to my pastel pencils. I have several colors. I have already mentioned the colors. The P40, that's the cadmium, deep cadmium, the maroon, the 170, the spectrum orange, the P100, the terracotta, the 640, and the titanium white, the 720. All from the Derwent. I prefer the Derwent. Of course, I am a Derwent ambassador, but I like the Derwent for starting these projects. So let's get acquainted with the darker red, the maroon. I go there on top, and let me put this a little bit away. And what I want to do, important thing is that you don't rub your hand on top of the drawing, and that's why I have this paper. When you buy a block of PastelMat, there is always an in-between layer of this paper, and this one will go underneath my hand, so it will helps with smudging. Thank you, Elma. Someone is leaving, but you can always come back to see the finish. We will finish with the pastel pencils. So what I will do is with the maroon, the P170 from the Derwent pastels, and here and there I will create a nice outline. Not everywhere, but here and there where I can see a darker color, I want to rub it in just a little bit like this. Go down in here, maybe a little bit in here, just to get those lines a little bit more out. Again, so not all the way around, but there where you can see the darker color, you place the dark red, almost brownish color. Something like this. I'm guessing this is it for the red for now on top. Then I will use a little bit of orange, and I will use the spectrum orange even in the red. Just there where I see a lighter red, I'm guessing we could have some more. Just a little bit of lightness. Something like this, and there, maybe on top. Maybe some little spots in the white. Of course, if you take more time for those little details, you get more realistic view of presentation of the ice cream. But for now, I'm just showing you how you can do it. And it all depends on how many hours you will take to create this project to get more depth and more detail. Yeah, Nettie, it's the same paper, but I'm not sure how it's called in English, but it's, you could also have spinneweb paper, that's in Dutch. Oh, sorry, wrong. Now I go to the white, and you can see lots of dots, little texture of the white on the ice cream, or a lighter tone. Try to captivate it. There are, if you looking at the photograph, you can see some drops, but it's very small. So don't hesitate to do it or leave it like that. It just, we want to captivate it a little bit for now, otherwise we will be here next week. So little bit of detail. That's a good question, Nettie. When do you know if it's enough? If I see the difference between my original, I can see that I'm a little bit too dark here. But for the rest, it's okay. The white is gone. There is no texture of the paper visible, and I can still work with my pastel pencils on top of it. So for me, it's nice to now know that I can work with my pastel pencils on top of the PanPastel. But it's always a, yeah, every person is different. So if you want to get more layers down before you go with the pastels, be my guest. This is my way. There are several ways to captivate this ice cream. And I just want to show you how you can work with your pen pastels. But yeah, it's difficult to know when you have to go with your pastel pencils. I understand that's a difficult choice, but it's practice. Something like this. I go back to the darker color because I think here it's very light, but I see this one is too dark. So what I will do is get some red and my magenta and put it in here also as a tabbing mixture, just to get more depth in this side. Okay, now I'll go to the orange and the yellowish. So I will get the orange and I will go to the second color. And of course you can put more effort and more time into the red, but be aware how much time you can do. And don't rush it. For me, I'm now rushing it because I want to get it finished in, let's say, 1.5 hours or an hour and 15 minutes. Doesn't matter. It's finished when it's finished. But take your time, do it in your own time. And if you're not ready for the pastel pencils, leave it, go watch this, and later on, or maybe tomorrow, pick up the live again and start there when you're ready with your underlayer to go to the pastel pencils. Don't feel the pressure that you have to have it finished right now, because this live will stay on YouTube. So you can look back for it, or maybe in a time you can try it again. What I'm now feeling, at certain spots, it's difficult to get my pastel pencils, for example here, on my paper. So at this, and on this spot, I had to have too much PanPastel or Colourless blender on my work surface, so I cannot place any color in here. And it's very subtle what I'm now doing. It's very lightly, but it's very nice. If you see, I'm not sure if it's visible on camera because it's so lightly done. Okay, here a round one, and here something here. And of course you can get more depth in those droplets what you see here if you place more or take more time to do those define little details. But for now it's okay for me. Again here, maybe a little bit of contrast between those two layers of orange and yellow. What I feel, if it's difficult to rub it in with your fingers, I will use a, let me see if it's clean. I use a rubbery color shaper to rub in the pastel pencils in the paper. And that's much easier than do it with your finger or with the soft tool, because the soft tool will pick up the pastel pencils. Much easier than the PanPastel. So that's why I'm using a rubber color shaper. Okay. Then I go to the white. Go down here. Down here. Maybe some dots. Again here. Hi Petra. I'm thinking, ik heb gewoon... Okay, yeah, that's it. Because if you're using normal drawing paper, you can't build up as much layers as we do on PastelMat. What you can do is fixate your normal drawing paper with your pen pastel, leave it to dry, and then you can apply your pastel pencils on top of it. With PastelMat, you don't need to fixate because the structure of the paper will hold down those pigments and it's not necessary to fixate. But if you work on ordinary drawing paper or normal pastel pencil, pastel paper, you could have work with fixative in between layers just to get more structure and more grip of your pastel pencils on the paper. So that will be a solution for you if you have pastel fixative. Please use good fixative. If you use PanPastel or very nice, beautiful pastel, classical pastels, always use a very fine fixative for your pastels if you use pastel fixation. So what I already just told you that I'm not using any fixative. If I want to store my drawings, I will leave this paper on top of it and it will be okay. If I frame it, I don't fixate it. If I sell my art, I don't fixate it, and I will leave a note on the back side that the person who will frame the pastel drawing don't fixate, because the fixation of pastel will change the colors, even on PastelMat. So if it's not necessary, don't use fixative on PastelMat. But that's my, again here, even on PastelMat it's difficult to get the layer down. Here you can see it, and on top it's not possible because there is too much color. Again, something like that. If there are any other questions, you can ask them now. I can answer them if there isn't any question. No problem. If there's later on any questions, please leave a comment down below and I will answer it if I didn't already answer it in this live. Okay. For now, I'm guessing this will be okay, and I will go down to this. How do you call it in English? I'm not sure, but it's a lollipop or a stick from the ice cream. This is the terracotta. So just a little line down here, again in here, and the little logo hard in hard like this. Just a little bit around, get some detail in. And I want to have a wood structure, and what you can do is just with the tip of the pencil and little lines on top of it, like if it was a wood grain, something like this. And maybe the maroon again on the outside, and again the rubber stamp or the color shaper, you can rub it in the paper. Again, some Sienna tint, the terracotta, maybe a little bit in here, slightly. Again here, maybe a line. Very careful. Yeah. I'm guessing it's finished. Let me see. Put the other one. 1, 2, 3. You can see two different sides. Yeah, I like them. Thank you very much of joining me with this free workshop. If you've seen this workshop later on, but you want to still join me. You can do that by finding the line drawing and the reference photo in the comments of this channel or on my Facebook page, Julia Woning Art. And if you want to have more information about PanPastel, then Workshop PanPastel is something for you. It's in English available there where you can buy your PanPastels. You can order it. And for the Dutch and the Belgian viewers, there is a Dutch version. All different projects about PanPastel. There is also a flip through on my YouTube, so find it somewhere. So thank you for joining me, and hopefully for the next time. Bye.